There are many things you may say about Landman. I think I've previously mentioned the majority of them in my coverage of Season 2. It's strange. Sometimes it is misguided. It doesn't adhere to any of the standard guidelines about pacing and organization. It has an almost unparalleled equality of focus, giving half-billion-dollar discussions between gangsters and oil executives equal weight with sporadic, pointless subplots about nursing home patients visiting the casino. Despite this, the season's conclusion is almost flawless, mostly due to these factors. Tragedy in Flies, the 10th episode, captures the heart of this program in about 70 minutes. You can't claim that there were a lot of surprises either. In the comments section of my coverage of the penultimate episode, a number of people predicted that Tommy would collaborate with Cooper in business, and I was right about what I expected to happen with Aninsley's college dorm issues and the fallout from Cooper attacking Ariana's attacker. However, that doesn't make it any less pleasurable to watch it all unfold, particularly in a show that prioritizes feelings over all else. Everything just works, even the strange things that don't. In any case, let's proceed in reverse order of importance since there is a lot to analyze. Growing up Aninsley. At last, Aninsley is maturing and leaving the nest. And it only required one training session at the college. Aninsley is taken aback by the rigorous schedule and realizes she needs Pagan, the physiotherapist, who is also quite skilled. Because Aninsley is a bit of an outsider in the group, Pagan must perceive something in her weak ankles that softens their bedside attitude. When a group of high school lads show up to taunt them, Aninsley humiliates them and dismisses them because of Pagan's softness. Since Aninsley had to finally stand on her own 2 feet, this had to happen and was always going to happen in essentially the same way that it does here. She needed to develop her ability to make concessions. She even informs Angela that she's going to try living in the dorms again, which causes her to have another meltdown about her kid flying the coop. However, that is the least of Angela's issues. Tommy's great concept. Tommy is no longer employed at MTEX, in case you forgot. A guy of his stature could, of course, return to being a landman or take a comparable job at another large corporation, but he isn't sure he has the stamina for that life anymore, and he also wants to show that he still has one more home run left in him. In between putting out a few other flames during the finale, he manages to put this home run together. However, I'll gather everything here. To put it succinctly, our commenters were correct. Tommy will capitalize on Cooper's success. It's a bit of a gray situation even though MTEX took over the leases because Cammy was unaware of that small deal. Convincing legitimate businessmen of this isn't always simple, but fortunately Tommy has some acquaintances who aren't. Galeno, come on in. With Cammy in charge, Tommy has no trouble persuading Galeno that MTEX is sinking. Nate is aware of that as well. He resigns instead of accepting Cammy's invitation to serve as interim president in Fort Worth, claiming that Monty never meant for the business to survive him. It must be sold since it is a sinking ship. Unless Charlie finds gas in the field by some miracle, Galeno's investment will never provide a profit. Tommy is making a guarantee. Cooper's wells are already yielding results. He can recover at 70% and divide all future profits 50/50 if Galeno follows the conditions of the initial agreement. He and Tommy are starting a business, but it's reasonable to assume there will be some obstacles when the gangster Galeno's flicker truly materializes. Cattle and CTT Oil Exploration. Tommy wants some credibility to support his new business endeavor. He gives Galeno instructions to write a check to a business named CTT Oil Exploration and Cattle, ostensibly because he hadn't finished forming an LLC yet and needed to make sure it was so foolish that no one else would accept it in the interim. Tommy instructs Cooper to create a group chat with almost all of the main characters and call them to Cooper's dig site once he picks up Cooper and Ariana. Tommy establishes the framework for his new oil company after arriving. Tommy will serve as senior vice president and Cooper as president. Dale is the head of exploration, Rebecca is the COO and chief counsel, and Nate is the treasurer. Ariana will be the office manager, and TL and Cheyenne will delightfully supervise the excavation. CTT stands for Cooper, Tommy, Thomas, in case you were wondering. Justice on the frontier. Naturally, the consequences of Cooper beating the man who was abusing Ariana outside the patch constitute another significant plotline in Landman Season 2, Episode 10. The fact that the man passed away in the hospital adds a little complexity to this issue, and as a major pipeline supplier, the optics aren't ideal. The sheriffs are attempting to punish Cooper as a result. As was to be expected, Cooper's repeated attacks on the man after he ceased to pose a threat don't reflect well on him. He will require legal counsel. Fortunately, Ariana is acquainted with Rebecca. All Rebecca needed was a reason to switch back to her usual shark mode after weeks of fluttering her eyelids at Charlie. She barges into the interview room and makes it a point to threaten to search up every shooting involving an officer in the department and file civil lawsuits on behalf of the families of all the victims. By their own reasoning, law enforcement will be liable for enough damages to bankrupt the whole department if Cooper is charged with using excessive force. Tommy is investigating as well. When he finally shows up for a meeting with the assembled brass and just scorches the earth, he contacts Walt right away to help restore it. In the wonderful state of Texas, is any jury going to side with the man attempting to force himself on a young woman over the man who valiantly defended his wife when it comes out that the man died in the hospital from a heart attack rather than the beating? Cooper is exonerated of any misconduct, and the lawsuit is a non-starter. Landman Season 2 essentially has a joyful conclusion in every way. This ending feels more like a Season 3 premiere than anything else, but that doesn't mean there won't be plenty of issues to handle in the future. Why not now?